Crystal said she would give me $1 if I could eat this Thai chili pepper without getting the hiccups. So I usually get the hiccups from these Thai chili peppers because they're hot. Wow, this is homegrown hotness. Sounds like a movie from the wrong part of town. Wendell, how you doing?
I'm not on fire, unlike someone else on this video call.
Well, we have a lot of things to talk about today, so let's jump right in and start talking about all of the things. We talk about Tesla a lot, and Tesla actually received some bad press, and their stop, drop, and roll. I think that's what I was trying to say because a car caught on fire. One of the Teslas, a video serviced on the internet, and it was a Tesla on the side of the street on fire. Apparently it hit some road debris. The road debris struck the battery, burst into flames. The flames were actually contained to the front portion of the car. It didn't burn the entire car down. So this video that went online, oh, that's freaking hot, caused the Tesla stock price to drop 6%. Seems a bit excessive, but people freak out when something like this happens.
Seems like now's a good time to buy, because that was probably just a fluke, and/or somebody did something really bad, and/or there was a squirrel across the battery terminals.
Uh-oh. A 30-second video of a car on fire has a much longer impact on car maker Tesla.
You're suffering greatly.
I love them. Okay, ow, it's burning. It gets worse. And when you drink beer, it makes it even worse. Yeah. Tim Berners-Lee, he pioneered an effort to bring DRM to HTML5. This is a real head-scratcher, but I think we can explain this for everybody. And I'm not going to say Tim Berners-Lee did the right thing. In fact, I'm not sure that he did do the right thing. But the problem is that we're fighting against all the companies, all the different media corporations out there. They want DRM on the web. They want to be able to say, no, you cannot watch this, you can't do this, you can't stream this, you can't have this, you can't. Thou shalt not. That should be like the book that they give everyone when they become a member of a major media company. Just a book that says thou shalt not, with all the things you can't do on the web. Anyway, Tim Berners-Lee is behind the new initiative to put DRM in HTML5. So Wendell, why do you think he's doing this?
I think that he's doing this so that he can watch Netflix on Linux, but not really. I mean, it's kind of tongue-in-cheek.
Yeah.
This is the lesser of two evils. Like, if you think about this from, I don't know. I'm thinking about this more from, like, probably Richard M. Stallman's point of view. It's like, I don't want to run foreign code on my machine because, somebody is going to implement DRM in Flash, or somebody's going to implement DRM in Silverlight, or they're going to implement DRM in some other proprietary code, which is what we've had so far. And so Tim Berners-Lee is saying, well, let's give you a standard way to do that so we can at least support it on mobile and iPads and Linux and Mac and Windows and things that haven't been invented yet. So at least it's standardized. And that's not an evil thing. It's the ends are maybe not a desirable result, but an argument can be made that that's probably the lesser of two evils, and that's probably the least evil way out that would allow you to have protected content.
I don't know. I'm thinking it's a slippery slope, and now it's like you got one foot in bed with these guys, and they're like, hey.
It is very much a slippery slope, but I think that it's probably a pragmatic approach for consumers, given that how much protected content is out there and they just want to watch their movies. But it does come with a cost, and it is a slippery slope, and that may mean that other things in the future are worse. But at the same time, I like the idea of not having to run some proprietary program in Flash or Silverlight or some other plugin in order to get access to the content.
Well, I'm going to watch this closely and hesitantly move forward. That's going to be the thing for me. Google has bought up another startup, and they buy like 9 startups a day that you just don't hear about it. But this one's interesting because it's called Flutter, and it's a gesture recognition startup. So they're buying this company. Right now, their software is mainly for, God, my mouth is, do I look like I'm wearing lipstick? Can you see in the webcam? Do I look like I'm wearing lipstick? It's burning.
No, it looks fine.
All right, that's good. Because I know sometimes if I eat like too many peppers, I walk around, people are like, are you wearing makeup? I'm like, no, my face is red and I've got, never mind. So anyway, the Flutter, this software, allows you to control mainly media applications by waving your arms in sort of a very Minority Report style thing. Was Minority Report really the first movie to do that, where they had like, you know, they were moving stuff around and like touching nothing to make things happen?
It was the first move where Tom Cruise really sold it.
Yeah, I need to find out if there was a movie before that so we can be very hipster.
Someone needs to make a YouTube video of him when he was dancing on Oprah's couch that has all the Minority Report interface stuff flying around him.
Because that's what it's going to be like. That's what I want.
Has that already been done?
I don't know. I don't think so. If it has already been done, do it, and then I want you guys to edit in the Star Wars kid fighting with him while he's. Never mind.
It's going to be epic.
The dude from the Silk Road caught, jail, trial coming. So and $3-point-something million worth of bitcoins have been seized, but the Silk Road is no more. It's been shut down, and the powers that were behind it. The way the guy got caught was really ridiculous. It's kind of funny if you ask me. I'm not a big supporter of the Silk Road. I mean, I'm a chaotic person to an extent, but he was doing some pretty heinous things over at the Silk Road, even though he was just enabling consenting adults to do what consenting adults were already going to do. I mean, he was still doing something that was, I mean, he was breaking the law, so he's caught.
Yeah, well, Silk Road, you know, most of its stuff was so you could buy illegal drugs, but you could also buy hits on people and stuff, and so that's really bad. And, you know, arguably, buying your crack on Silk Road is probably better than, you know, going to Manassas, Virginia, and buying your crack there.
I thought they had pills there mostly, right? I don't even know.
Yeah, you can get your pills
there. That whole entire part of the country is like a lot of pills going on.
But it's still pretty illegal, and the guy may have actually put a hit out on one of his own employees.
Yep, Ars Technica released an article about that. Apparently, or allegedly, shall we say, $80,000. He put a hit on one of the employees who he thought was a snitch, and he was supposed to, you know, torture the guy and then kill him. So there's a lot of weird things going on here. But the funny part is the way he was caught. He went on to Stack Overflow, you know, and he was trying to figure out how to do something on his website that had to do with Tor. And so he posted on Stack Overflow, and he used his real legal name. And like a minute later.
1 second.
What's that?
1 second.
That was it. Just 1 second. He used his, and then
1
he like
second.
thought it was like a minute.
Nah, I think it maybe it was a minute. I think it was a second though.
An insignificant amount of time. He went back and changed his name to like Dr. Skittlebutt or something. I don't remember what it was.
It was like Frozen.
Frozen. Okay, yeah, I don't know what it was. But that one insignificant amount of time where he had his regular name on there, that's all it took to catch him. So, and it's funny they've on Stack Overflow they left the article up and they've closed the topic, of course, but they've linked to everything that's going on. So. That's interesting.
It's kind of crazy. Yeah, 3.6 million in Bitcoin seized, blah blah. you know, we've said for a long time Bitcoins are way less anonymous than you think, because if you control either the beginning or the end of the Bitcoin chain, it's really easy to go back in the journal and track the journey of your Bitcoins.
It's the same thing with Tor. I mean, in a different way, but we've said the same thing about Tor. It's not safe, and people. Every week we say, so-and-so got caught using Tor. So-and-so was being an idiot using Tor and got what was coming to him. So-and-so did this using Tor, and they hit him in the head with a machete. So that's what's going on right now. Yeah. All right,
but no hiccups.
Yep. Let's talk about Lavabit. Are you ready to talk about Lavabit?
Lavabit. This one is one of the more interesting cases.
Yeah.
And there's so much misinformation and disinformation everywhere. I'm not sure that we'll get it right either, but it's really the court transcripts are amazing, and if nothing else, you should go read the transcripts.
The first thing I want to clarify here is that the Lavabit guy, if you guys have not been following us for a long time and you're new here, first off, hi, subscribe. After you finish subscribing, welcome back. Glad to have you. It's a good thing you did subscribe, because after you watch the inbox, you will see what you just avoided. Anyway, so the Lavabit guy, right, he's been fighting for a long time with the government, longer than you may be aware of. And the government came to him and they wanted like tons of information. They wanted him to, you know, just basically give him everything. They're like, well, Verizon gives us all this information. Why can't Lavabit give us all this information? And Lavabit said, no, you cannot have keys to my encryption. You cannot see what's going on. But he did say, you know what, I'll let you see. He did give them some just raw encrypted data. And they were like, well, this is no good to us. Give us the freaking keys. So he's been fighting with these guys for a long time. And finally in courts, the judge said, listen, we're going to fine you $5,000 a day until you really cooperate. Because I think he pissed him off because he gave him like an encryption key, printed out on, like 11 pages of paper at size 4 font, and they were like, we can't use this.
Yeah, well, it wasn't just one key; it was a lot of keys.
Yeah, just all together.
And yeah, it wasn't actually useful. But in the first court case, he showed up to court without a lawyer, and was like, "Look, I have no problem with them installing this device to do monitoring, whatever they want to do." But the thing that the judge didn't understand is, like with the telephone analogy, you can plug into the wires and capture the information about numbers dialed with like the touch tone system, but it doesn't actually capture the message or anything like that. With this, because a lot of the metadata is encrypted, the government was arguing, it's like, well, we get access to the metadata through the telephone system. We should have access to the same metadata with this system. But that's not how SSL works.
Yeah, and SSL is it's a sealed envelope with almost nothing on the outside other than a weird series of numbers.
Well, you can get the IP address. I mean, that's a piece of metadata. If you want, you can see that this IP address is communicating with this other IP address, but you don't know the message contents. You don't know any of the message contents.
And you legally cannot even tie an IP address to another individual, though they continually try to do so.
Yeah, well, you could say that somebody's traffic passed through this IP address. You don't know if that was the for sure 100% endpoint, but you could then go get a warrant or subpoena or whatever for that location and then another location and follow it all the way back. And in the first court case, the Lavabit guy was just trying to tell the judge, is like, look, they can install this, but it doesn't do them any good because everything is encrypted with SSL. And so eventually it's like, well, no, you have to give us the SSL that lets us decrypt everything, and you just have to trust us that we're only getting the metadata, which is an absurd argument by itself. But the original thing that happened in the 70s was because there was a business record of somebody dialing somebody else, and they had no expectation of privacy on dialing that. And so like a postcard or like an address on the outside of an envelope, that argument maybe would hold water. But in this case, the metadata was not readily accessible. So the original argument doesn't hold.
They've used this argument that you keep mentioning, the 1970 case. They've used this argument in a very broad sense to justify, it's almost been one of the bases of the entire justification of the NSA surveillance system. So let's talk about that now, because this is extraordinarily interesting. This all started with the purse snatching, and this could be a separate video entirely. Are we going to make a separate video on this, or?
We probably should.
So I guess we'll just...
I don't know. Why don't you guys tell us?
We'll gloss over this now because it's a lot of information, but if you want a separate video, because I think it would be hilarious, we could even maybe do some dramatizations. I'll call Kane in New York and have him do some dramatizations for this to help illustrate the points and make it viral. But essentially, a guy stole a purse from a girl, and then after he stole the purse from the girl, he continually called her and called her and called her. So she called the police, and the police... they put a tap on him, but they did so at the phone company. They just wanted to know every time he called the girl. And every time he called the girl, there would be a record made of it. And this is really just kind of glossing over a lot of the details here. But what it all boiled down to was it went to court, and the guy's name was Smith. He's the guy who kept calling the girl over and over again. It was Smith versus the state of Maryland. And so the Attorney General in the state of Maryland argued that, well, listen, every time he calls this girl, his phone or his phone number or his call has to go through the local provider, or he has to go through a major company like at&t. So he should not expect at&t to not know. Therefore, he should expect that who he's calling is not private. And that bit of information right there, the NSA still quotes Smith versus Maryland. And I know people yelled at me a while back when I said that court rulings become law, but this is really what I meant. These precedents are used over and over, and they become sort of a rule of law in the world. And I mean, we still have the NSA saying, well, people shouldn't expect things to be private. I mean, look at Smith versus Maryland. Anytime anybody writes an email to another company, they know that company is going to have some information about it. They shouldn't expect that to be private. It should be common knowledge that it's not private. So even the Attorney General, even in Maryland, looked at what's going on right now, and he was like, I had no idea that this was what was going to come of this case. He believes that it's being grossly abused, like the verdict from the 70s is being grossly abused today. So I'll go ahead and let you add your 2 cents on this as well.
Well, I think the original case is that this information was free and in the open and ready to collect, in a sense, inside the business. And it's not a lot different than, an operator, like a physical operator. It's like, operator, get me the Smiths. It really is not a lot different than that, and it's not a lot different than the outside of an envelope. But with the encryption and with the modern technology, if you really want to be honest about your analogies, it's not a one-to-one analogy. The metadata that they believe they are entitled to is protected by the nature of the technology. And if they're entitled to that, that's fine, codified in law. Don't surreptitiously go about backdooring it. This is really interesting from the Google perspective as well. The type of encryption that Google has begun implementing in a very widespread fashion is called perfect forward secrecy, and it would make this type of SSL eavesdropping completely impossible. They would not be able to use the private keys to replay the SSL session and get any information. And so this type of thing wouldn't even physically be possible with a Google type setup. And so, would Google go through what the Lavabit guy has gone through? Would Google be found in contempt? I don't think so.
Well, Google certainly has. I mean, they have the resources to do so if they choose to do so, and I think that they would fight. I mean, they've already been fighting with the government. Like right now, you see Google and Yahoo and LinkedIn and Facebook and several other companies. They're just fighting with the government for their right to reveal some of the verdicts from these secret court rulings. They want people to know what's going on, and the Department of Justice now has formally, I guess they've formally come out and said no. They're formally opposing their right to share this information. So there's going to be a battle. I mean, it's just going to go down right now. That's all that's going to happen.
The judge didn't really understand in the case. He's like, well, these are telephone records. We've been asking for these for years. It's a pretty standard thing, this thing, and nobody's really opposed it. But, with the secret court issuing this type of thing on so many levels, would we even know? I mean, Google has apparently opposed it. Google's apparently been down the same road as Lavabit, but no one knows because it's a secret court.
I mean, we can go into a lot more, but I think we should make a separate video because it's actually kind of a lot of fun as far as the origins of the origins of the NSA.
It's like one of those things where when you start off, it's very reasonable, and by the end, it's if she weighs as much as a duck, she's a witch.
She's a witch. Burn her. That's pretty much what's happening right now, and we are all the witches because we are.
Perhaps in the video we can explain how sheep's bladders may be employed to prevent earthquakes.
We probably have a more logical explanation for that than we would for what's going on in the whole surveillance state. Have you seen the time?
It's rant 30.
It is rant 30. Comcast, we are on to you. We see you guys out there. A lot of, it's not just Comcast, I should say. It's a lot of the big companies out there. But Comcast is doing this thing that's very interesting. Some people were complaining that, hey, high-speed internet is not getting any faster. And then Comcast, they came out and said, whoa, hold on a minute. High-speed internet is getting much faster. But when you look at what they're doing, it's very interesting. They are maximizing their profits, which I guess that's what you do if you're a major corporation. But at the same time, their practices are somewhat monopolistic, and their practices are also very anti-consumer. So here's what they do. They realize that most people at home are not going to spend more than $50 a month for high-speed internet. So they give them sort of a medium tier that's like 15 to 20 megabits, depending on where you live in the country. And if you want the high-speed internet access, well, you can have the higher speeds. We're talking 100 megabits per second. I've even seen Comcast in some areas of the country at up to 300 megabits per second. But if you want that, you're going to pay. And you're going to pay a lot more. We're talking like you're going to be paying prices that are something that you would have imagined you would have paid for this kind of access 10 years ago.
North Korean prices.
Exactly, North Korean prices. So
see, what's happening is there's a bald guy that's about 4 feet tall in Comcast, and he's like, Verizon's being really evil. Quick, let's do something too. And so now it's like, let's do some trials and see how customers enjoy getting swill and see if anyone notices.
Yeah, we just put a little bit of swill in their coffee in the morning. That's essentially what it is. Like, hey, I realize we can save money. It's the same color, the swill. It's the same color as the coffee. Can you imagine if you went to your local
trial
coffee shop? And it's a little bit at a time. It's a little bit now, then this much, and then this much, and then before you know it, you're drinking a cup of swill.
I like
but
how
the problem is it's the only coffee shop in town.
I like how it's let's give this a customer trial and see if the customers notice that we're giving them swill. And it's like, wait, you changed it for the worse. Why would you? Well, we just changed it for the worse on a trial basis to see if anyone notices. And if they don't, we're going to keep making it worse until they do notice.
Well, speaking of what you're exactly speaking about right now, I think is the fact that they're rolling out some metered billing trials across the country. And they're doing it mostly right now in the South. Like we're talking Mississippi, Savannah, Georgia, and Central Kentucky. I believe it's also going on in Nashville, Alabama, Charleston, South Carolina, and some different places in that area of the world. And what they're doing is they're giving everybody 100 or 300 gigabytes a month. And if after you go over that 300 gigabytes, well, you can purchase additional blocks of bandwidth, additional 50 gigabytes a month for $10. So
that seems completely reasonable.
Yeah, if it was 1980.
If it was 1980 in North Korea.
I hear their internet's pretty fast over there.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that's a bad analogy. We're talking maybe like a third world country or something we should be talking about that doesn't even have infrastructure. I don't know.
If the infrastructure situation is so bad here, we're talking about rationing 100 megabit connections. We need to just go ahead and get some pencil and paper and move to the woods.
You know what? That's my next point right now. We have a solution. We're not just here to complain about freaking Comcast and Verizon and all the other idiot big companies that think they can take advantage of us. We have a solution, and we are seeing some individuals on the ground take matters into their own hands. There's a lot of different places in the country that are doing this. Places in Washington State, that is, places in the middle of Mississippi, places in Vermont, are going to the community and they're saying, hey guys, let's build our own infrastructure. Let's do this. And when you build your own infrastructure, you don't have to worry about all the idiot companies. You don't have to worry about all the companies that are trying to make monopolies out of certain areas of the world. So that's what we need. We need people to go to their communities, whether it's your local city, go to your local council meeting, and just make them understand that internet fiber to the home is as essential as roads. I mean, in fact, they could be more essential than roads, in my opinion, because think about all the people that could work remotely, save on gas money, save on road infrastructure rebuilding money when you have to drive your car up and down the road all the day. It just makes a lot of sense to have uber high-speed internet going to everyone in the country. It should be like a right. This should be done on a community level. So if it's not like a small local business, go to your town hall meeting and say, hey, we need this. Did I preach enough?
There is no reason we should not have a national fiber optic network. We did this with a copper network, from the 1940s on, and we were into fiber optics nationwide in the 80s, like the long haul, long distance switching networks. Those are already in place. We don't need those. We just need fiber in the last mile.
Well, a lot of them are not.
We can't manage that. It's terrible.
Well, a lot of areas even have fiber in the last mile. There is fiber under the ground, but it's not being used because the companies like Comcast and Verizon and at&t and is MCI still around? They realize that when they turn that on, it's going to make a lot of their services obsolete. Go ahead.
It's funny because that's how Google ended up in Provo, Utah. Provo ran their own municipal fiber network and then were sued into never being able to use it. And so then Google bought it for $1.
It's unbelievable. So
that's not exactly how that happened, but that's more or less how that happened.
It's more or less how that happened because they sued the local government saying, like, hey, they shouldn't be allowed to compete with us. We're a company. They're going to put us out of business if they keep doing this stuff on a local level. So we've got a lot of things to overcome, but we can start making some headway now. And
Google bought it for $1, and then bricks were shat.
And they were like, oh, damn. So that's what Comcast is up to. I thought you guys would like to know that. And if you guys want to check out their website, there's an explanation of the new data usage plan, what's going on with this new Xfinity plan, this new limited plan, what's going on with it. So they explain it here.
I'd just like to point out that if you had a 15 megabit connection pegged for 30 days, you could download about 4 terabytes conservatively.
And that's only a 15 meg connection. If you're playing games, downloading things, uploading things, if you're working from home and uploading and downloading large files, let's say you're a media, or a content creator working from home, you're screwed. And if you live in an area where you can get Comcast and nothing else, maybe Hughes satellite or something like that for 5 megabits for $90 or something. I don't know what they are. Satellite's a joke. But yeah, you're pretty much screwed if you live in an area where all you can get is Comcast.
Well, your 15 meg connection is pegged for an entire month. You only get 4 terabytes, or 4 terabytes is what you get. And so these caps are coming to get us used to the idea of caps, and then they're not going to move. In much the same way bandwidth hasn't really moved in 10 years. I mean, our local area just recently went from a top speed of 15 meg to a top speed of 50 meg. And when they went to the 15 meg, that happened 10 years ago. And so if 50 meg is all we've got for the next 10 years, it's all over.
Well, the other thing is that you are really paying for it down there.
Yeah.
In our part of the world, it's not that expensive to get high-speed internet, but down there, they know that you don't have access. If you want 100 megabit down there, it's like $600 a month.
No, 100 meg here is $1,700 a month.
100 meg you're in central Kentucky there.
Yep.
I need another drink. I need a stiff one this time.
No, it's highway robbery, and it should be put a stop to.
We're going to see what we can do to help, and we're going to ruffle some feathers. If you guys are with us, let us know in the comments.
Oh, maybe the Netflix, like, how much bandwidth do you use when you're watching, HD on Netflix? And I'm not sure what the numbers for that are. I'm sure somebody will tell me. But
well, they've also got
guessing...
the Super HD as well, which is a new option. And now they're giving it to everyone. It doesn't matter. Like before, they would make the ISP pay a service or pay like some kind of a fee to offer their customers the Super HD or whatever. But now they're just giving it to everybody without forcing the ISPs to jump through any hoops, which is nice. But that's also going to make people hit their bandwidth caps quickly.
I think that the rule of thumb calculation on Netflix is like 15 high def movies in a month, and you hit a 250 gig cap, which is not really a lot. And if you're doing other things, I mean, it's kind of rough.
Yeah, and there's a lot of people that watch one movie per day. I mean, I'm not one of those guys, but I know a lot of people that watch like a movie a day, and they do stuff on the internet all day, play video games. It's a huge step backwards. It's ridiculous. All right, let's go on and talk about hardware.
Hardware.
The new Radeon graphics cards will be out very soon. I'm not allowed to say exactly when, but probably in a couple weeks or a week and a half or something like that. And we've got the R9 series, the R7 series. We're going to be playing with some of those and testing them out and letting you guys know what we think of them. And now there are some rumors, so let's cover those rumors. NVIDIA needs an answer right now because these new AMD cards look super fast, and they're not going to be that expensive, comparatively speaking to the NVIDIA parts. So some screenshots have surfaced. I think it was on NeoGAF or something, where someone released a GPU-Z screenshot, and the graphics card there is a 770 Ti. And it looks like it's going to be, of course, more powerful than a 770, but not quite as powerful as a 780. But still, that could kind of fill a gap and compete with some of these high-end Radeon cards and possibly be the same price or a little cheaper. So that could be interesting. I like good competition in the marketplace, especially because the high-end cards right now are so stupid expensive, and we're seeing like, the Radeon graphics cards, the R9 290X is listed on Newegg for $729. That's a fast card, but it's freaking expensive. So
I've heard a rumor that NVIDIA is getting ready to respond, I guess first quarter of 2014 with a card that's twice as fast as the Tesla.
Well,
but that's entirely rumor. I don't know. It could be a dual GPU Tesla, which would just be silly.
Well, that kind of makes sense because it's about time for them to roll over into their next GPU. All right. Let's look at the Intel Galileo. Galileo! That's the only way to say it.
This looks awesome. I really want one of these.
It's Arduino compatible, 400 megahertz, and it's just a little system on chip. You could do pretty much whatever you want with it. You could run, I don't know, what would you run with this?
I think I would probably see about some home media stuff. I really, it turns out that the Raspberry Pi makes a very excellent sort of home automation hub. And so you don't actually do anything mission critical, like your home alarm system and things like that actually still run on a dedicated system. But in terms of appliance monitoring and, follow me lighting and things like that, that can be managed by the Raspberry Pi, and it gives you a higher level interface on Bluetooth for tracking your wireless. And so when you get home and your MAC address for your phone's on the network, your house can be like, hello, welcome home, and things like that. And I think that a more powerful version of this could sort of bridge the gap between something like a Raspberry Pi and something like an Arduino, because an Arduino works better at being an appliance, and a Raspberry Pi works better at being powerful. So
yeah, like a powerful interface for that appliance. But I mean, the fact that it's compatible with the Arduino is also very interesting, and it should be I mean, it should be nice and fast. We'll just have to see what the price is in comparison to the Raspberry Pi, but it could be a great competitor to the Raspberry Pi. I mean, like I
don't think Intel's figured out pricing. I have a feeling this is going to be like $150 just because Intel has no idea what it's doing when it comes to pricing.
They really don't. It's like, hey, we made the same thing that someone else made. Let's make it 4 times as expensive. Good idea. Yeah, it's a good idea. Yeah.
It's like we're gonna make this thing that's gonna be awesome, and we're gonna sell it for $4, and then it's like, well, wait, $4? That's a little low, don't you think? It's like, okay, it's gonna be $200. I was like, no, that's probably too much, and then it's like $3. It's like, no, what's wrong with you?
I have no idea. All right, let's talk about Moore's law. There's been a couple developments. Okay, last week we had the carbon nanotubes, right? And that looked a little, I don't know what it looked like. It looked a little weird. But now there's a new thing going on, right? And we're talking about photonics, right? Silicon photonics. Now here's what's going on. We've got some guys, where is it? MIT and Calder, and the University of Boulder, Colorado, or Colorado Boulder. I'm not sure which one comes first in that. They've been working on something right now that allows companies to use the same manufacturing processes, slightly modified fabrication units, to create new chips that, instead of using the traditional method of like sending electrons or sending electricity through these chips, they no longer do that. They create they what's the word I'm looking for? They morph? No. They take the electricity and they turn it into photonics. So now you have a light that's delivering all the information through there. Now the nice thing about this is you can have several different wavelengths of light moving at the same time, right beside one another, right through one another, and they're not going to interfere. So you'll essentially eliminate crosstalk. The other thing is there's going to be no wasted heat, and that's going to be really nice, because the problem we're getting right now as we shrink, Moore's law says that everything's going to become about twice as powerful every 2 years, is it, or something like that? Or not twice as powerful. You're going to be able to fit twice as much stuff into a
Moore's law is a transistor density doubling every 18 months.
Yeah, 18 months. Okay, not even 2 years. So this can really defeat that, in the sense that right now the problem with Moore's law is as we get smaller and smaller.
Well, it's not even the density. It's actually, Moore's law is about doubling the number of transistors every 18 months.
Okay. Well, that's kind of, I mean, we want it to be smaller, but yeah, it's not necessarily density. But anyway, back to what we're talking about.
That does factor in.
Yeah, density is really important. But back to what we're talking about here. I mean, the problem with getting smaller and smaller right now with Moore's law is that heat is going to stop us from going any further at some point. I mean, right now you're even seeing it with Haswell. The stuff is getting so freaking hot. It's like 15 to 20 degrees hotter than last generation Ivy Bridge stuff. So we're almost at that limit right now, the heat threshold, because after you get stuff so close together, it's just going to melt. This could really, really, really change things. So there's that going on. The next thing that's going on that's pretty interesting, graphene. Now, graphene, it may or may not be coming out as quickly as this does, because this, you can just go in any fabrication lab and refit a lot of the stuff and start making chips using the photonics, the silicon photonic technology. Well, with graphene is an interesting stuff. We've talked about this in the past, so I'm not going to really get into this, but graphene could take over the world. Graphene is 1 atom thick, but it's also extremely strong, and it conducts electricity. So graphene can be used in some of these devices. It can be used, think of it this way. Graphene can be used as a coating to put on any surface on your cell phone. It will protect the surface, number one, and number two, it will conduct electricity, and possibly could be even used, I don't know, as a touch device. Who knows? You could use it as a lot of different things. It can be the computer itself. There's so many different applications that graphene could fit into. There's so many different uses that it could, have, I suppose.
I wonder if somebody watching this video in 2014 is going to look back and say, those poor guys, they had no idea what was in store for the future. It would be like us looking at a video from the 70s about asbestos.
Yeah. There's a really funny video there, not a video, like I guess I forgot what magazine it was, but some magazine, maybe it was Scientific Journal or Scientific American or something like that. A major magazine posted a while back, I think it was in the 40s or 50s, that by now and by this point in time, we'll have all the farms will be on asteroids, and they'll be making all their food there and sending it back here. So
I'm just thinking about asbestos. It's like, as you know, the 1940s serials like asbestos, the new super insulation material. It's really great. And then, by the 80s, it was like, oh God, asbestos. No, it's gonna be like that with
asbestos is
carbon
the
nanotubes.
Yeah.
Carbon nanotubes are great until you breathe them. They get in your food, your cells, and then it's very bad.
I don't know. I think graphene may be the next thing. I mean, we'll have graphene. I want graphene in everything. Graphene underwear, graphene boots, graphene computers. Why not? It's an atom thick.
Be like Scrooge McDuck and go for a swim in your graphene vault.
It would look funny because graphene is, it's see-through. It's clear. So you just be swimming in nothing. That would be funny. I don't even know what we're talking about. Science? Ready to transition into science, or?
Yes, let's transition into science. I'm all kinds of off topic today.
I'm all kinds of all over the place anyway, too. I've been modding Skyrim too much. I'm out of beer. This is terrible. Speaking of being out of beer, Dogfish Head is brewing a beer with moon dust. You can go to Dogfish Head. You have to go to their actual brew pub or whatever, but you can get a beer brewed with a little bit of moon dust in it.
A little bit of moon dust, a lot of cancer.
Yeah, a lot of cancer. Well, yeah, I don't think it's going to be cancer so much as it's going to be like aliens popping out of your stomach. That kind of thing. Little did we know that the aliens that are on the moon actually are made out of nitrogen and not carbon. So we never knew that when we were drinking the beer that we were actually drinking alien eggs.
I read a transcript or something of a chat from the Apollo moon landing, and when they got back in, they said that the moon dust smelled remarkably like sulfur, I think. And when they looked at the dust under a microscope, it was really sharp and jagged. And that was because I guess there's not really wind on the moon, and the dust here has been blown around for millennia, and so it's all not sharp edges or anything. But on the moon, it was all abrasive and sharp and things like that. It was actually wearing down the equipment really fast when it would get in joints and things because it was so sharp and abrasive.
So yeah, if you guys want to go to the Dogfish Head Brewery and drink Moondust Razor Blade, Moondust Razor Blades, go ahead. It's served in a NASA koozie type thing. It's like I don't know. Let's move on. I'm tired of that.
It reminded of that episode of Family Guy where Adam West is like, you have lymphoma. Why did you think that rolling around in radioactive waste would give you superpowers? I mean, why did you think that?
There's a lot of good games that are not on Steam. So if you want to keep track of all the games that are not on Steam that are also pretty cool, go check out notonssteam.com. Clever name for a game website for games that are not on Steam. So right now they're having a not on Steam sale. There are 5 days, 15 hours, and 58 minutes and 47 seconds as of right now. But tomorrow there's going to be 4 days. There's 4 days, 8 hours, 57 minutes and 32 seconds when this video goes live, I think. Yeah. Anyway, there's a lot of different games on here you guys can check out, and you buy the games directly from the vendor. Some of them are on Greenlight, so hell, just go on there and check out all the non-Steam games. You may find your next favorite game, or you may find some just absolute slop. I'm not going to vouch for any of them.
You should mention that game that I found that is probably awesome, but no one else will understand.
Which one? Oh, the one it's the one that's like NetHack meets
DayZ.
DayZ. I've forgotten the name of it already. What's it called?
Yeah, I can't remember either.
Well, I'm going to leave this in the video, and people are just going to put it in the comments, so we'll be all good. Terraria 2.
Cataclysm. I knew that. For some reason, I was thinking, oh, no, that's not the name. That's just the tagline. No, that's the name.
Cataclysm. So if you guys know what NetHack is and you know what DayZ is, combine them. The gameplay is very much like DayZ, and the style is very much like NetHack. Does that cover it, kind of? Or no, it's just a good combination of the two.
I think technically the neckbeards are going to correct us and say that it's a roguelike that has features of DayZ.
I will go to their houses and punch them. And tell them to come off it. All right, Terraria 2 has been kind of announced, kind of. So if you guys are curious about that, here's the details on Terraria 2. I've not played that game. It's one of the top things on my list of I need to play this like right now. FTL was on the top of that list for a while, and then it took over my life, and then I didn't see anybody for a while. So I'm hoping this doesn't do the same thing. But just so you guys know, in Terraria 2, he wants multiple universes, and he wants you to be able to seamlessly travel through all these different universes. Another interesting thing about that is he said that the world for Terraria 2 and the rules of the game and all that sort of thing are not quite set in stone yet. So anything kind of goes. It'll still obviously have the flavor of Terraria. Let's see. Ubisoft leaked the system requirements for Watch Dogs 2. Kind of ridiculous. If you want to run the game on Ultra, you need an i7-3930K with a GTX 670. I would think you would be able to get by just fine with like an i5 and a GTX 770. That would probably be a more cost-effective way to do it, but hey, it's Ubisoft. That's what they say. If you want to run it on like the recommended specifications, you can get a 7850 with an AMD 8-core 8350, or if you want to be NVIDIA, Intel, which always seem to go together, GTX 560 and i7-3770K. They're putting a lot into the CPU here.
They really are. I wonder what that's about.
I think it's about them not knowing. I don't know, but that seems a bit weird to be so CPU heavy for a video game. And a 560 Ti with a 3770K, that just seems really lopsided in favor of the CPU. And I can't imagine a game that has all the different graphical effects and stuff going on. I know this game's going to need a good CPU because there's a lot of stuff going on, but I don't know. I think these recommended specifications may not be the best options. Maybe we should make our own recommended specifications after it comes out. Half-Life 3 has been it's been confirmed. Yeah, I just confirmed it. Yeah, it's confirmed. Well, everyone's always waiting on it to be confirmed. What we really need is not for it to be confirmed. We need a release date, or we need to know that they're working on it. And right now, the only thing that we know is, of course, they're working on it. There's a bigger team working on Left 4 Dead 3 than there is on Half-Life 3. So I wish everyone would just shut up about it, because there's no news. They registered a trademark in some other part of the world that's not America, so it doesn't matter.
The reality here is that Half-Life 3 could never live up to the hype, which is why they stopped.
Well, they're working on it. They said that right now there are, they're moving more people over to Half-Life 3. Like, there's more people that are actually dedicated to nothing but Half-Life 3. So they're doing something. And we've got the Source Engine 2. So someone at Valve is working on something that has to do with Half-Life 3. And that's pretty much all I really care about.
They would have to really have something to really freshen up the storyline, because there's no way it would live up to the hype unless it's something crazy like Portal. Like, if there's like a Portal, something as revolutionary and interesting as Portal built into Half-Life 3, unless they do that, it's going to be disappointing.
Well, I guess the big revolutionary thing with Half-Life 2 was the gravity gun. But, that's the problem, is that they've set themselves up so that they have to come up with something that bends the genre at least a little bit, or else they can't release a game, because everyone's going to be like, oh, we've already got FPS games. Why do we need another one? Other than the fact that we need to continue the cliffhanger story. We'll continue from the cliffhanger and finish the story. So, yeah, guys, be quiet about Half-Life, please. Jesus. Oh.
Said everyone in Valve all the time.
I can't even go on to any social network if anybody coughs and it sounds like someone said Half-Life 3, everyone freaks out, and I just can't even go onto a social network or Twitter or anything. It's just people freaking out. Just shut up about Half-Life 3, really. Shut up. All of you, shut up. There, that was direct enough. Do you think they'll understand that?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how many times you said shut up, but if it was divisible by 3, then Half-Life 3 is confirmed.
Yeah, I think it was 6. Shut up, just in case. All right, before we go, I forgot to mention this during the hardware portion, but there's an SSD endurance experiment that's been going on at the Tech Report. And Wendell, you've been watching this. Did you have time enough to read this and check out what's going on here?
Yeah, so they're up to 22 terabytes of writes, and I guess they haven't had any failures yet, and they're going to update us whenever they've got news or whatever. But this endurance test is really awesome. They're doing a write test on a whole bunch of different SSDs to find out when they fail and what the characteristics are.
Yeah.
There are kind of some interesting implications on the write speed. You can't really read too much into it, but it looks like the Samsung 840 Pro, the Samsung 840 series, their write speed has gone way down. But the Corsair, the Intel, and the Kingston drives are doing a little better.
We recommend the hell out of that Kingston drive all the time. It's almost the same drive as the ADATA XPG SX900. They're almost the same drives, so they're both very similar in performance. I don't think they're specifically testing that one, but I wanted to mention that as well. But the Corsair Neutron GTX is freaking fast. I mean, even after all of the different, all the different abuse that it's gone through. So very interesting. So check that out. All right, everybody, you should subscribe. I have trouble with that word sometimes. Maybe it's because I really don't want anybody to subscribe.
We would like it if people subscribe. That works good for us.
Yeah, it's nice. I feel like I should have some kind of a good ending. I don't really have one. I just want to go mod Skyrim more. But I have to edit this. All right. We got more videos coming up soon, so watch them all. Thank you guys for being awesome, and we'll see you next time.